The grand chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador Marcus Chen stood at the human podium. Above him, holographic displays showed the territorial maps of known space. Red zones marked the areas where the Krellian Empire had been moving their fleets. Those red zones were getting closer to human colonies every day. War Master Thraxon stood across from him. The massive Krellian looked like a walking tank covered in dark blue scales. His three eyes glowed with barely hidden contempt as he stared at the human ambassador. Behind him, dozens of other Krellian officers waited, their clawed hands resting on ceremonial weapons. They looked confident. Too confident. Chen glanced around the chamber. Representatives from 40 different species watched the confrontation. Some looked nervous. Others looked curious. A few seemed bored, as if they had seen this kind of thing many times before. The galaxy had learned to expect threats and counter-threats. It was the normal way of politics among the stars. The Krellian Empire demands that humanity surrender all colonies in the Outer Reach sectors, Thraxon announced. His voice boomed through the chamber like thunder. You have expanded too far. You claim resources that should belong to stronger species. We give you one standard cycle to comply. After that, we will take what we want by force. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some species nodded in agreement. Humans were relative newcomers to galactic politics. They had only been part of the interstellar community for 300 years. In cosmic terms, that was nothing. Many species viewed them as upstarts who needed to learn their place. Chen took a breath. He was a short man by human standards, barely reaching 5.5 feet tall. Next to the towering aliens around him, he looked tiny. But he did not look afraid. He straightened his uniform and met Thraxon's gaze directly. We reject your demands, Chen said simply. Those colonies are lawfully established under council regulations. We will defend them. Thraxon's mandibles clicked together in what might have been laughter. Defend them? With what? Your fleet is scattered. Your colonies are barely protected. The Krellian 5th Armada numbers 800 warships. What can you possibly do against such a force? We have our defenses, Chen replied calmly. Defenses? Thraxon looked around at the other delegates as if inviting them to share in the joke. Please, human. Enlighten us. What defense could possibly stop the 5th Armada? Chen paused. He seemed to be considering his next words carefully. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. The UNSC Phantom Doctrine stands ready. For a moment, there was complete silence in the chamber. Then Thraxon threw his head back and roared with laughter. The sound was deafening. Within seconds, dozens of other species joined in. The chamber filled with clicking, buzzing, and howling sounds as aliens from across the galaxy laughed together. The Valorian ambassador actually fell from his floating platform, his tentacles waving in amusement. The insectoid chick delegates rubbed their antennae together in their version of hysterical laughter. Even some of the usually serious Draken representatives showed their teeth in broad grins. The Phantom Doctrine, Thraxon managed to say between laughs. By the ancient stars, you humans are more desperate than I thought. Chen's expression did not change. He waited for the laughter to die down. A slim, elegant Solarian delegate named Quisha spoke up, her crystalline voice cutting through the noise. Ambassador Chen, surely you cannot be serious. The Phantom Doctrine is a myth, a story, human propaganda from the First Contact War. It is a legend, added the Cheek representative, his translator converting his clicks into standard language. A tale you humans tell your children to make them feel brave. Beware the ghost ship that appears from nowhere. It is entertainment, nothing more. Chen remained calm. I assure you the Phantom Doctrine is quite real. This brought another round of laughter, though somewhat more nervous this time. Thraxon stepped closer to Chen's podium. Let me tell you what I know about your precious ghost ship, human. It supposedly disappeared 250 years ago. It allegedly possessed technology that violated the known laws of physics. It could appear and disappear at will. It was commanded by a captain who refused to die. It single-handedly defeated an entire invasion fleet. He leaned in close, his hot breath washing over Chen. Do you know what that sounds like to me? It sounds like a fairy tale. A myth created to scare enemies and inspire allies. But I'm not scared, little human. And I am not a fool. Chen looked up at the towering War Master without flinching. The stories are true. Every word. Then where is this miracle ship? Thraxon demanded. Why has no one seen it in 2.5 centuries? Why does it not appear at your military parades or guard your homeworld? Because we do not know where it is, Chen admitted. It vanished during the First Contact War, pursuing an enemy fleet into deep space. It never returned, but we have maintained the recall signal, broadcasting continuously across all quantum frequencies, and that signal has been answered. Convenient, Thraxon sneered. A ghost ship that may or may not come to save you. Tell me, Ambassador, do you truly expect me to withdraw my Armada because of a children's story? Chen's eyes hardened. I expect nothing, War Master. I am simply informing you of the fact. The Phantom Doctrine exists. It has responded to our signal. And if your Armada attacks human colonies, you will discover that some myths exist because the truth is too terrifying to believe. Thraxon stared at the human for a long moment. Then he turned to address the entire council. The Krellian Empire does not fear ghosts or legends. We do not tremble at bedtime stories. The Fifth Armada moves toward human space as planned. We will see how well myths protect colonies from plasma fire. He strode from the chamber, his officers following behind him. The other delegates began talking among themselves, their voices rising in excitement. War was coming. Everyone knew it. Chen gathered his documents and prepared to leave. As he walked toward the exit, Quisha glided up beside him. Marcus, she said softly, using his first name in a rare show of familiarity. Did you mean what you said? About the Phantom Doctrine? Chen looked at her and smiled sadly. I hope I was telling the truth, Quisha, because if I was wrong, a lot of humans are about to die. He left the chamber without another word, walking into the corridor beyond. Behind him, the council erupted into chaos as species chose sides and made preparations. War had been declared, and the galaxy would soon learn whether human legends were real or just smoke and mirrors meant to hide their weakness. In the cold void between stars, something ancient stirred. A signal had been received. A call had been answered, and after 250 years of waiting, it was finally time to wake up. The Krellian Fifth Armada moved through space like a metal storm. 800 warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming under the light of distant stars. War Master Thraxon stood on the bridge of his flagship, the inevitable Conquest, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. Numbers scrolled across screens showing fuel levels, weapon status, and crew readiness. Everything was perfect. Time to target? He asked his navigation officer. 42 standard hours until we reach the human colony of New Carthage, War Master, the officer replied, his claws clicking across the console. The humans have begun evacuation procedures, but their transport ships are slow. Most civilians will still be on the surface when we arrive. Thraxon nodded. Good. Fear is a useful weapon. When the other human colonies see what happens to those who resist, they will surrender without a fight. His communication officer looked up from her station. War Master, we are intercepting human military transmissions. They are using basic encryption that our systems can easily break. Let me hear it. The bridge speakers crackled to life. Human voices spoke in their strange musical language. The translation software converted their words into Krellian. This is Defense Command to all fleet units. Protocol Awakening is now active. Repeat, Protocol Awakening is active. Hold your positions and await further instructions. Thraxon's scales rippled with amusement. Protocol Awakening? What dramatic nonsense. These humans watch too many entertainment programs. He turned to his intelligence officer, a thin Krellian named Vexlar. What is your analysis? Vexlar consulted his data screens. Unknown protocol designation, War Master. It appears in none of our intelligence files about human military procedures. It may be a recently created code phrase, or more likely it is meant to sound impressive while meaning nothing at all. Thraxon settled into his command throne. The humans are masters of bluffing. They hope to make us cautious with mysterious words and vague threats. There is one thing, War Master, Vexlar said hesitantly. The humans keep mentioning their ghost ship. This Phantom Doctrine. I took the liberty of compiling all references to it from our historical databases. And what did you find? Stories, legends, propaganda, nothing concrete. Vexlar transferred files to the main display. According to human records from the First Contact War, the Phantom Doctrine was humanity's first true warship. It was built in secret, combining experimental technology from multiple human nations. The ship supposedly possessed something called a quantum displacement drive, weapons that could fold space itself, and an artificial intelligence that merged with its human crew. Another officer snorted in derision. Quantum displacement? Impossible. Such technology would require energy output, equivalent to a small star. No ship could carry such a power source. The humans claim it could appear and disappear at will, Vexillar continued. That it could be in multiple places simultaneously. That its weapons could strike from angles that should not exist in normal space-time. Fantasy, Thraxon declared. The humans were new to interstellar war during the first contact period. They were frightened and desperate. They created a legend to boost morale, nothing more. But the legend persists, Vexillar noted. For 250 years, humans have told stories about the Phantom Doctrine. Children grow up hearing about Captain Elizabeth Voss and her ghost crew. The ship appears in their fiction, their art, their cultural mythology. Because humans are sentimental creatures who cling to their fairy tales. Thraxon waved a dismissive claw. They want to believe in miracles and magic. It comforts them. A junior officer at the sensor station raised his hand timidly. War Master, there is one other thing. I found it by accident while reviewing deep space monitoring records. Speak. Every 50 years or so, monitoring stations detect an unusual gravitational signature. It appears suddenly in different sectors of space, exists for approximately 0.3 seconds, then vanishes completely. The pattern does not match any known natural phenomena or ship design. Thraxon turned his attention to the young officer. And you believe this relates to the mythical ghost ship? I only mention it because the timing is consistent with the legend, War Master. The stories say the Phantom Doctrine exists between dimensions, phasing in and out of normal space. If that were true, it might create exactly this kind of gravitational anomaly. The bridge fell silent. Several officers looked uncomfortable. Even among species that traveled faster than light in terraformed worlds, there were limits to what seemed possible. A ship that existed outside normal reality crossed too many of those limits. Thraxon broke the silence with a harsh laugh. Coincidence. Nothing more. Random gravitational fluctuations that superstitious minds want to connect to ghost stories. He stood and addressed his entire bridge crew. Listen to me, all of you. We are the Krellian 5th Armada. We have conquered 12 species. We have burned 100 worlds. We are not children to be frightened by tales of phantom ships and impossible technology. The humans have a small, outdated fleet. We will sweep them aside like dust. This conversation is over. The crew returned to their duties, properly chastised. But Thraxon noticed some of them still glancing at the sensor displays, as if expecting something to appear. Hours passed. The Armada drew closer to New Carthage. The human colony grew larger in their sensors, a green and blue world that looked peaceful from orbit. Cities dotted its continents. Orbital stations hung in space like metal flowers. It would all be under Krellian control soon. Entering weapons range, the tactical officer announced. The human defense fleet is moving to intercept. I count 18 warships, destroyer and frigate class. They are badly outmatched. Let them come, Thraxon ordered. Show them the futility of resistance. The human ships accelerated toward the Armada with impressive courage, if questionable wisdom. They opened fire first, launching missiles and particle beams that splashed harmlessly against Krellian shields. The Armada responded with overwhelming force. Human ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Debris scattered across space. Within minutes, half the human fleet was destroyed. The survivors fought on, desperate and brave. They managed to destroy 3 Krellian vessels and damage a dozen more. But the outcome was never in doubt. One by one, the human ships fell silent, their hulls torn open, their crews dead. Begin orbital bombardment, Thraxon commanded. Target military installations first, then industrial centers. Leave the cities intact for now. We want survivors to spread the word of their defeat. Plasma cannons swiveled toward the planet. Energy gathered in their barrels, preparing to rain fire on the world below. Then every sensor on every ship in the Armada screamed in alarm. Contact, the sensor officer shouted. Massive energy signature appearing at grid 779er. Distance edge of the system. What kind of contact? Thraxon demanded, his heart suddenly beating faster. Unknown, War Master. The readings are. They are impossible. It is as if space itself is tearing open. On the main display, all 800 ships in the Armada detected the same thing. At the very edge of the New Carthage system, reality was bending. Folding, breaking, something was coming through. Something enormous, all ships, combat alert. Thraxon barked. Bring weapons online. Shields to maximum. The something finished arriving. Space sealed itself behind it with a flash of blue-white light that made sensors temporarily overload. When they cleared, when the Armada's computers finally processed what they were seeing, absolute silence fell across every Krellian bridge. A ship hung in space. But not just any ship. It was massive, easily twice the size of Thraxon's flagship. Its hull was dark gray, covered in scars and battle damage from countless fights. Sections of it seemed to shimmer and fade, as if the ship existed partially in another dimension. Strange geometric patterns covered its surface, glowing with soft purple light. Weapons studded every surface, designs that matched nothing in any known database. And on its hull, in letters 300 feet high, were the words UNSC Phantom Doctrine. Thraxon stared at the impossible sight. His mouth went dry. His scales went cold. Around him, his crew sat frozen in shock. The ghost ship was real. The UNSC Phantom Doctrine hung in space like a predator watching its prey. Its hull reflected no light. The strange purple glow from its geometric patterns pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. 800 Krellian warships surrounded it, weapons charged and ready, but no one fired. They were all waiting, watching, trying to understand what they were seeing. On the bridge of the inevitable conquest, War Master Thraxon felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear, real, genuine fear. He forced it down, buried it beneath layers of military discipline and pride. He was a War Master of the Krellian Empire. He would not be intimidated by a single ship, no matter how strange it looked. "Full sensor scan," he ordered, pleased that his voice did not shake. "I want to know everything about that vessel. Power output, weapons count, shield strength, crew complement, everything." His sensor officer worked frantically at his console. Numbers appeared on the screens, then disappeared, then changed. The officer's hands moved faster, confusion evident in his movements. "War Master, the sensors cannot get a stable reading. The ship phases in and out of detectable space. One moment it registers as solid matter, the next moment it barely exists. Our computers cannot calculate its mass or energy signature with any accuracy." "Then give me your best estimate." "Based on fragmentary data?" "Power output exceeds any known vessel by a factor of 20. Weapon systems are unlike anything in our databases. Shield configuration does not match any standard design. It appears to use some kind of dimensional folding technology that I cannot even begin to understand." Thraxon's communication officer interrupted. "War Master, we are receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel. Audio and visual. Put it on screen." The main display flickered and changed. A human face appeared, belonging to a woman who looked to be in her mid-40s. She wore an old-style uniform that was clean but worn, as if it had seen many years of use. Her hair was pulled back in a simple style. Her eyes were the most striking feature, a piercing blue that seemed to look through the screen and into Thraxon's very soul. Behind her, more humans moved through what looked like a ship's bridge. Their equipment was ancient by modern standards, but it hummed with obvious power. The woman spoke, and her words were translated instantly into Krellian. "This is Captain Elizabeth Voss of the United Nations Star Command, commanding officer of the UNSC Phantom Doctrine. We have been waiting, we have been watching, and we have not forgotten." Vexlar, the intelligence officer, gasped. His claws clattered on his console as he pulled up historical files. "War Master, Captain Elizabeth Voss was declared dead 250 years ago. She was the original commander of the Phantom Doctrine when it disappeared during the First Contact War." "Impossible," Thraxon muttered, but his voice lacked conviction. He activated his own communication system, broadcasting to the strange ship. "This is War Master Thraxon of the Krellian 5th Armada. I do not know what trick this is, but you are outnumbered 800 to 1. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Captain Voss smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Surrender? War Master, you don't understand the situation. Let me explain it to you." She gestured to someone off-screen. The view shifted to show a large holographic display. It showed a star map of known space with marked locations scattered across multiple sectors. 250 years ago, Voss began, her voice calm and educational, like a teacher explaining a difficult concept. "My ship was equipped with experimental technology, a quantum displacement drive designed to move through dimensions as well as through space. We were pursuing an alien fleet that had attacked Earth. The enemy led us far from home, then ambushed us. In the battle, our drive was damaged. It activated while we were fighting and something went wrong. The holographic display showed an animated recreation, a ship, the Phantom Doctrine, fighting multiple enemies. Then a flash of light. The ship vanishing. We fell out of normal space-time, Voss continued. We ended up trapped in what our scientists call quantum foam, the layer of reality between dimensions. We could see the normal universe. We could watch it. But we could not interact with it. We could not return. Time passed differently where we were. For the universe, 250 years went by. For us, only 15 years. Thraxon felt his blood run cold. You have been watching for 2.5 centuries? Every moment, Voss confirmed. We watched humanity join the galactic community. We watched them struggle and grow. We watched them face threats and overcome them. And we watched species like yours threaten them over and over again. We could do nothing but observe. It was torture. She looked directly into the camera, directly at Thraxon. Our scientists worked constantly to find a way home. Our engineers rebuilt the quantum drive piece by piece, trying to understand what went wrong. Our crew never gave up hope. And 5 years ago, by our time, we succeeded. We learned how to control the dimensional shift. We could return to normal space whenever we wanted. Then why didn't you? Thraxon demanded. Because we needed humanity to complete the equation, Voss explained. We were trapped using old technology. We needed modern calculations, modern understanding of quantum mechanics. We listened to human scientific broadcasts. We intercepted their research. Slowly, piece by piece, they figured out the math we needed. They didn't even know they were doing it. And 3 days ago, they broadcast the final piece of the puzzle. The recall signal contained quantum coordinates that let us lock onto their position and pull ourselves fully back into normal space. Vexillar was frantically researching on his console. War Master, I am finding historical records. Captain Voss was considered a hero of the First Contact War. She commanded the Phantom Doctrine in 17 major engagements, winning all of them. Her tactical brilliance was legendary. She disappeared on what was supposed to be her final mission before retirement, pursuing an enemy fleet that had bombed civilian targets on Earth. She was supposed to be dead, Thraxon said, though it sounded weak even to his own ears. We were dead, Voss replied, apparently able to hear him. Dead to our families, dead to our friends, dead to our world. Everyone we knew is gone now, War Master. Our children are ancient or deceased. Our great-great-grandchildren walk the earth. We lost everything except each other in this ship. Her expression hardened. But you know what we gained? Perspective. We watched humanity face challenges that would have broken lesser species. We saw them adapt and survive. And we saw species like yours mock them, threaten them, try to push them around because they seemed weak. She leaned forward. So when the recall signal finally brought us home, and we heard that the Krellian Empire was threatening human colonies, we knew exactly what we had to do. We had to remind the galaxy of something they seemed to have forgotten. And what is that? Thraxon asked, though part of him did not want to know the answer. That humanity does not give up. That humanity does not surrender. And that humanity has guardians who have waited a very, very long time to protect them again. Thraxon straightened in his command throne. He looked at the ancient ship on his screen, at the woman who should have been dead centuries ago, and made a decision. He was War Master of the 5th Armada. He commanded 800 ships. He would not be frightened away by ghosts and stories. All ships, he broadcast across the fleet channel. Target the unknown vessel and fire. Destroy it. 800 warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma beams, particle cannons, missiles, torpedoes, and every other weapon in the Krellian arsenal converged on a single point in space. The amount of energy released could have destroyed a small moon. It lit up the darkness like a second sun. The Phantom Doctrine was directly in the center of that inferno. It should have been vaporized instantly. Nothing could survive such concentrated firepower. But when the light faded, when the sensors cleared, the ship was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. It had vanished as if it had never existed at all. Where is it? Thraxon shouted. All ships sensor sweep. Find that vessel. War Master, his tactical officer screamed. Contact behind us. It is behind us. Thraxon spun around to look at the rear view display. The Phantom Doctrine had appeared at the back of his fleet formation. As he watched, it fired a single weapon. A beam of purple-white energy lanced out and struck a Krellian battlecruiser. The massive ship simply ceased to exist, aging into dust in seconds as if centuries had passed in an instant. Then the Phantom Doctrine vanished again. It reappeared, on the other side of the fleet, fired. Another ship, gone, vanished. Appeared again, fired, Vanished, appeared, fired, vanished. The ghost ship had begun its hunt. Chaos consumed the Krellian Fifth Armada. Ships broke formation, trying to track an enemy that refused to stay in one place. Weapons fired at empty space where the Phantom Doctrine had been moments before. Captains shouted contradictory orders. Crews panicked as their sensors showed impossible readings. Warmaster Thraxon gripped his command throne so hard his claws left marks in the metal. He watched his carefully organized fleet fall apart before his eyes. "All ships maintain formation," he roared into the fleet channel. "Concentrate fire in sector grids. Cover all possible approach vectors." But how could they cover all vectors when the enemy could appear anywhere? The Phantom Doctrine materialized above a cluster of destroyers, fired a weapon that Thraxon had never seen before, and 3 ships simply imploded. Their hulls folded in on themselves as if crushed by an invisible hand. The ghost ship vanished before return fire could reach it. "Warmaster, we have lost 43 vessels," Vexlar reported, his voice shaking. "The enemy appears to be targeting ships at random. There is no pattern we can predict." "There must be a pattern," Thraxon insisted. "Nothing is random, find it." The Phantom Doctrine appeared in the middle of the fleet, directly among a squadron of frigates. It did not fire this time. Instead, its hull glowed brighter and reality around it warped. The Krellian ships near it began to age. Their paint faded, their metal corroded. Their systems failed as decades of wear happened in seconds. The ships became floating wrecks, their crews dying of old age before they could even scream. Then the ghost ship was gone again. "It is not random," Thraxon's tactical officer said suddenly. "Warmaster, it is targeting our strongest ships first. The ones with the most powerful weapons and heaviest armor. It is eliminating our ability to fight back." Thraxon realized the officer was right. Every ship the Phantom Doctrine had destroyed had been a capital vessel, a heavy cruiser or a well-armed battleship. It was systematically destroying the Armada's offensive capability while ignoring the smaller ships. It was tactical perfection. The AI, Vexlar whispered. The legend said the ship had an artificial intelligence merged with its crew. It would give them processing speed far beyond any normal crew. They can analyze our entire fleet, identify the biggest threats, and prioritize targets faster than we can think. The Phantom Doctrine appeared again, this time staying visible for a full 10 seconds. It launched a spread of missiles that moved in impossible patterns, curving through space as if following paths that existed in more than 3 dimensions. The missiles struck 6 different ships simultaneously. Instead of exploding, they seemed to phase the ships partially out of normal space. The affected vessels flickered like bad hologram projections, trapped between dimensions, their crews' screams cutting in and out across the communication channels. "Return fire," Thraxon commanded. "All ships in range, fire everything you have." Hundreds of weapons discharged at once. Beams and projectiles converged on the Phantom Doctrine from every angle. Surely, even with its strange technology, it could not dodge everything. But it did not need to dodge. The ghost ship simply existed in multiple quantum states at once. Some weapons passed through it as if it was not there. Others struck but seemed to hit nothing solid, their energy dissipating into whatever dimensional space the ship was using as a shield. Only a handful of shots actually connected with its hull, and they left barely a scratch. The Phantom Doctrine returned fire with what looked like a simple particle beam. It struck a Krellian dreadnought's shields and kept going, punching through 3 layers of protective energy as if they were paper. The beam carved through the ship's hull out the other side, and continued on to damage 2 more vessels behind it. "One shot, 3 ships crippled, how is that possible?" Thraxon demanded. "No weapon has that much penetrating power." "It is not just power," Vexlar said, studying his readings with growing horror. "The beam exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. It hits the target from angles that do not exist in normal 3-dimensional space. There is no way to defend against it." The battle, if it could even be called that, continued. The Phantom Doctrine appeared and disappeared across the battlefield like a ghost, like the legend it had always been. Its weapons were nightmares made real. One fired beams that seemed to reverse time on their targets, making shields collapse before they had ever been raised. Another launched clouds of nanomachines that aged ship hulls by centuries and minutes. A third created miniature dimensional rifts that swallowed Krellian vessels whole. And through it all, Captain Voss's voice came over the communication channels, calm and cold. "You laughed at the legend. You mocked humanity's warnings. Now you learn the price of underestimating those who have lost everything and gained perspective. Thraxon watched his fleet die, 100 ships lost, then 200, then 300. The armada that had seemed invincible an hour ago was being torn apart by a single enemy vessel that operated on principles of warfare no one else understood. "We need to retreat," Vexillar said urgently. "Warmaster, we cannot win this fight. We need to preserve what remains of the fleet." "No!" Thraxon slammed his fist on his throne. "We are Krellians! We do not run from battle." "Warmaster, we are not running from battle. We are being slaughtered." "There is a difference." Another wave of Krellian ships exploded as the Phantom Doctrine swept through them like death itself. Thraxon saw a destroyer captain on the communication screen, saw the fear in the officer's eyes just before his ship was cut in half by a dimensional blade. The two pieces of the vessel drifted apart, atmosphere venting, crew dying. 500 ships lost now. The armada was broken, but Thraxon was Warmaster. He had not risen to this position by accepting defeat. If he could not destroy the ghost ship, perhaps he could force it to choose between victory and protection. "All remaining vessels," he broadcast, his voice filled with desperate fury. "Cease engagement with the unknown vessel. Target New Carthage directly. Bombardment pattern Omega. Turn the planet to ash. Let us see if this ghost ship will sacrifice the colony it came to defend." It was a cruel tactic, but Thraxon was beyond caring. He would take something from humanity even if it cost him everything. The remaining 300 ships of his armada turned their weapons toward the planet. Energy gathered in their cannons, building to devastating levels. The Phantom Doctrine appeared one final time. But this time it did not vanish. It materialized directly between the Krellian fleet and New Carthage, placing itself in the line of fire. It hung there solid and real, its scarred hull facing the armada. A shield. "Fire," Thraxon whispered. "Warmaster, if we fire at that range with that much power, we will destroy ourselves along with the target," his tactical officer protested. "I said fire." But before the order could be carried out, the Phantom Doctrine activated a new system. Its hull began to glow with brilliant blue-white light. That light spread outward, forming a dome that covered the entire planet. The few human ships that had survived the initial battle were caught in the dome's edge, and began to phase in and out of normal space, protected by the same dimensional shielding that protected the Phantom Doctrine itself. Captain Voss's voice came through one last time. "You wanted to see if the legend was real, Warmaster. Now you know. But here is what you should truly fear. This ship is obsolete. This is 250-year-old human technology, built with resources from a single planet, designed by scientists who were just beginning to understand quantum mechanics. We are old. We are tired. We are outdated." She paused, and her next words were delivered with absolute certainty. "Imagine what humanity has built since." Thraxon stared at the impossible sight before him. A single ship protecting an entire planet with technology that should not exist. A crew that had waited centuries for this moment. A legend made manifest. And for the first time in his career, Warmaster Thraxon of the Krellian Empire gave an order he never thought he would give. "All ships," he said quietly, "retreat. Full speed. Get us out of this system now." The remaining Krellian vessels turned and fled. News of what happened at New Carthage spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, every species with interstellar communication knew that the Krellian Fifth Armada, 800 of the most powerful warships in known space, had been destroyed by a single human vessel. Within days, the recordings from Krellian ships captured before their destruction were being analyzed by every major military power. Within weeks, the galaxy had changed. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The same chamber where Warmaster Thraxon had laughed at Ambassador Chen now hummed with nervous energy. Representatives who had mocked humanity weeks ago now sat in silence. The holographic display showed footage from the battle. Ships vanishing, weapons that defied physics, a ghost made real. Ambassador Chen stood at the human podium once again. This time no one was laughing. He looked different somehow, calmer, more confident, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Warmaster Thraxon stood across from him, but he looked diminished. His scales were dull. His posture was hunched. Of the 800 ships he had commanded, fewer than 200 had escaped. Thousands of Krellian warriors were dead. His career was over. His empire's pride was shattered. The Krellian Empire formally requests a cessation of hostilities with humanity, he said, each word clearly painful. We withdraw all territorial claims to human colonies. We offer compensation for the defense ships destroyed in the initial engagement. We seek peace, Chen nodded slowly. The United Nations accepts your request for peace. We have no interest in prolonged conflict. We never did. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Valorian ambassador, Quisha, floated forward. Her crystalline form shimmered with what might have been embarrassment. Ambassador Chen, on behalf of many species present, I must apologize. We did not take your warnings seriously. We treated the Phantom Doctrine as fiction. We were wrong. You are not wrong to doubt, Chen replied. I doubted too. We all did. The ship had been gone for so long. Even Earth's government believed the Phantom Doctrine was just a legend we maintained for diplomatic advantage. We broadcast the recall signal every day for 250 years, but we never truly expected an answer. He gestured to the holographic displays. And then, 3 days before the Krellian Armada attacked, we received a response. A quantum-encoded message on frequencies we barely understood. The Phantom Doctrine told us they were coming home. They told us about the dimensional trap. They told us they had been watching. And they told us they were ready to serve again. The insectoid cheek representative clicked forward. The question every species wants answered, Ambassador, is this. How many more ships like the Phantom Doctrine does humanity possess? Chen smiled. It was a careful, diplomatic smile that revealed nothing. That information is classified for reasons of strategic security. But surely you can tell us something, the Draken representative pressed. The galaxy needs to understand humanity's true capabilities. For mutual understanding. For peace, Chen agreed. Very well. I can tell you what Captain Voss told the Krellians. The Phantom Doctrine is 250-year-old technology. It was built when humanity was just beginning to explore space, when we barely understood quantum mechanics, when we had the resources of only one planet to draw upon. He let that sink in. Now humanity spans 47 star systems. We have access to resources that would have seemed infinite to our ancestors. Our scientists stand on the shoulders of 2.5 centuries of advancement. Our engineers have learned from both our own mistakes and from galactic technology. So I ask you, what do you think we have built in all that time? The chamber fell silent. Every representative was imagining the same thing. If the Phantom Doctrine was obsolete human technology, if it was the first crude attempt at quantum warfare, what did modern human warships look like? How many existed? What capabilities did they possess? No one knew, and that uncertainty was more terrifying than any display of force could have been. Quisha spoke softly. You have made your point, Ambassador. Humanity is not to be underestimated. But I must ask on behalf of peaceful species everywhere, what are your intentions? The Phantom Doctrine demonstrated power that could threaten all of us. How can we trust that humanity will not become aggressive? Chen's expression softened. Because we have seen what aggression costs. The crew of the Phantom Doctrine spent 15 years trapped outside reality, watching their loved ones grow old and die without them. They returned to a galaxy where everything they knew was gone. They are heroes, but they are also victims of war. Every human military officer studies their sacrifice. We remember what it means to fight, and we remember the price. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with as many representatives as he could. Humanity does not want to dominate the galaxy. We want to live, to grow, to explore, to trade, to learn. We want to raise our children in peace. But we will not be bullied. We will not surrender what is rightfully ours. And if threatened, we will defend ourselves with every resource we possess. Including the Phantom Doctrine? Someone asked. The Phantom Doctrine has returned to deep space, Chen said. Captain Voss and her crew were offered retirement with full honors. They were offered positions at military academies, advisory roles, comfortable lives. They declined. Why? Thraxon asked, speaking for the first time since his surrender. After everything they sacrificed, why would they not rest? Chen pulled up a final holographic recording. It showed Captain Voss on the bridge of her ship, speaking directly to the camera. Her crew was visible behind her, humans who looked young but whose eyes held the weight of centuries. We have been gone for 250 years, Voss said in the recording. Everyone we loved is gone. The world we knew has changed beyond recognition. We do not fit in this new galaxy. We are relics from another time, warriors from an era of more desperate fighting. But we are not useless. Someone needs to watch over humanity. Someone needs to remind the galaxy why humans became legendary in the first place. That will be us. That is our purpose now. She looked off camera, as if she could see through space itself to Earth and all its colonies. We will patrol the void between stars. We will watch the borders, and if any species threatens humanity again, they will learn the same lesson the Krellians learned. Some myths exist because the truth is too terrifying to believe. The recording ended. Chen let the silence linger for a moment before speaking. The Phantom Doctrine is out there now, somewhere between dimensions. Watching, waiting, and it is not alone. Humanity has other defenses, other capabilities, other surprises. We simply choose not to advertise them until we must. He gathered his documents. This council session is adjourned. Humanity looks forward to continued peaceful relations with all species willing to offer the same. To those considering aggression, we offer only this warning. Do not make us wake the Guardians. Chen left the chamber. Behind him, the representatives began talking urgently among themselves. The political landscape had shifted. Humanity, once viewed as a minor power, had revealed itself as something far more formidable, and the uncertainty about what else they might possess kept everyone off balance. In the cold void between stars, the UNSC Phantom Doctrine phased through dimensional space, invisible to normal sensors. On its bridge, Captain Elizabeth Voss sat in her command chair, reviewing reports from across human territory. Her crew worked around her, efficient and silent. They had been together for so long that words were often unnecessary. "Captain," her navigation officer said, "we are receiving the standard broadcasts from Earth. News reports, entertainment programs, scientific journals. Would you like to see them?" Voss shook her head. "Not today. That world is not ours anymore. We are ghosts, remember? Ghosts belong to the past. But we fight for the future," her tactical officer added. "Yes," Voss agreed. "We fight for a future we will never be part of. For children who will never know our names. For a humanity that has moved beyond us. That is our duty and our honor." She stood and walked to the main view screen, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans were living their lives in peace. Working, playing, loving, dreaming. Building a civilization that stretched across the cosmos. They could do so because Guardians watched over them. Guardians who had sacrificed everything to serve. "Set course for the outer territories," Voss ordered. "There are rumors of pirate activity near the mining colonies. Let us remind them why the darkness is not empty." "Aye, Captain," the navigation officer replied. "Engaging quantum displacement drive. We will arrive in 6 hours." "Good. Plenty of time to run combat drills. We may be a legend, but legends must stay sharp." The Phantom Doctrine began to fade from normal space, its form becoming translucent, then transparent, then invisible. Within moments it was gone, existing in the spaces between dimensions where observation could not reach. It moved through the quantum foam, a guardian angel invisible to those it protected. In the Galactic Council chambers, in military headquarters across a dozen species, in the nightmares of War Master Thraxon, the question remained: how many more ships like that did humanity possess? How much power did they hide? What other legends were real? The answer, known only to a handful of human officials, was both simpler and more complex than anyone imagined. The Phantom Doctrine was unique. There was no other ship like it. But humanity had learned from its design. They had studied its principles. And they had built new vessels using that knowledge. Ships that were just as mysterious, just as powerful, just as invisible. The galaxy would never know exactly what humanity possessed. That uncertainty was itself a weapon, more powerful than any bomb or beam. As long as species like the Krellians had to wonder, had to imagine, had to fear what might be waiting in the dark, they would think twice before threatening human worlds. And in the darkness between stars, a ghost ship patrolled, watching, waiting, ready. The legend was real, and the galaxy would never forget it.